Hey everyone, partly because Maslow 4.1s are about to start shipping and partly because I just wanted to do it for myself, this week I'm going to be setting up a Maslow in my garage. Just as this is not a how-to video, this is more of a trying to start a conversation and spark people to think about different ways you could set up your Maslow 4s. So my garage is very small. Since the last time I did a video, I used to live in a studio apartment in Seattle, but now I live with my partner, and we have this teeny tiny one-car garage. And not only is it teeny tiny, but she needs to be able to charge her car in here. So it has to be like readily accessible all the time. I can't, build anything big that takes up space permanently in here. You might think that this is not even a space that one could put a 4x8 foot CNC router, but we're going to. So what I did is, the first thing I did is I built a simulator that simulates how different where you can position your anchor points and how that will work out. There'll be a link in the video description if you want to play around with that. So I put together this website. There'll be a link in the video description, which is a simulator for where your anchor points can be positioned. So I measured the width of my garage to be 3,300 millimeters, and then I just played around with some options here for what the length of how far apart I should put the anchor points in the other direction to get good performance. So you can see if I try 300. If I try 3,000, you can see I'm getting a little bit of orange in here. So 4,000 seems like it's a little better for getting everything in the green. And what we're seeing here, there's a bunch of different options you can play with. Resolution, this just changes how precisely it calculates things. That's just nice for making it run faster. This one here, belt length. So if we turn this one off, this is basically the belts can only reach so far, so there's a maximum size we can go. So that's these red areas here. That's where we're running out of belt. We physically can't go that far. And you can turn each of these off. So if we turn off belt length, belt tension, this is this red one up at the top here, and that's basically really only applies in vertical orientation. But in vertical orientation, as you get up toward the space right between the anchor points, the tension gets really, really high. So in vertical orientation, if we had a shorter frame, let's say, here, we might start running into that tension being a factor. And then this one here, arm contact, this is because the arms can't rotate a full 360 degrees. They'll hit the upright supports on the machine. And so this one is basically where our belt's contacting. And we can turn that one off. And then this one is belt angle. As you get really close to the anchor points, specifically this top left and bottom right one, which are the highest, the belt is very angled down. And so that angle starts to become a concern as you get really close to those anchor points. So you can play around with this. It's a fun way. I made this actually as I was planning out where to put my anchor points in the garage. I was like, it'd be nice if there was a cool tool that I could just try some different options really quick and see how they'll look. But I played around with, where my anchor point positions were going to be. And then I used two different kinds of anchors here. Again, I'm renting this house, so I didn't want to drill directly into the concrete. Normally that'd be the easiest, simplest thing to do. But I wanted something I could, take down and no one would ever know it was there. So I did two anchor points that are the kind that are screwed directly to the floor, because I had a board I could screw to, and I made two that go on the wall. And those are the only parts of this design that are permanent and stay in the garage, so hopefully when the machine's not in use, you won't even probably notice that there's anything there. Then for my spoil board, what I did is I took some insulation foam and I duct taped sort of every other joint so it can accordion flat. So when I'm not using the machine, I can just store this in a corner, and then when I want to be able to cut a sheet of plywood, I just lay this flat on the ground, extend out my 4 belts, press apply tension, and I'm ready to start cutting. I have not tried cutting anything yet, but I did run the calibration process. This is the new V0.88 calibration process. It went really smoothly. I'm not going to say there's not any bugs still, but this time it worked great. Yeah, so here's a time lapse of that happening. What's new in this latest version of the calibration process is that it no longer asks you to enter a rough guess for how big the frame is to start the calculations from. Basically, the machine figures that out itself. We're just trying to bit by bit eliminate all of the places for something to go wrong. The more that we can automate things, the more reliable we can make them. One issue that I found during the calibration process was my foam was actually sliding around on the floor a little bit. That's not super surprising. During the calibration process, that's not a problem, but if I was cutting a piece of wood, we don't want that piece of wood moving while it's being cut. So I got this stuff, it's called router pad. It's like a very grippy material. I'm gonna glue some of this to one side of the foam just to make it like super non-slip. I'm 99% sure that this router pad is the exact same thing as like the non-slip stuff you put under carpet. So maybe just get that, it might be slightly cheaper. But yeah, so this will go into the foam, hopefully eliminate the slip. Generally, I just like to encourage you to think about, how can you set up your Maslow 4 where you might not even need to build a frame. A Maslow 4 with a frame is much smaller than your standard 4x8 foot CNC router, but it still takes up space. Whereas something like this takes up virtually no space at all. Generally, we just like to spark a discussion. I'm really excited how this turned out. I will, if you have any feedback for other ideas for how to make it even better, let us know. And I will report back once I've actually cut something. Have a great week, everybody.